A small software company in South Africa did what many pollsters in America could not.
It accurately predicted that Donald Trump would win the presidential election. BrandsEye uses social media algorithms to track momentum, sentiment, and sarcasm online, while traditional polling relies on live interviews and surveys.
Joining us live now from Johannesburg, South Africa, is BrandsEye CEO Jean-Pierre Kloppers. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Great to chat to you.
So if you figured out some algorithm that makes this work, why haven't the powers that be done so if it's so important to them?
Well, I think it's not quite just an algorithm. We use a combination of artificial intelligence and crowdsourcing. And I think the magic of what we were able to do in the US was by using people to understand what people were saying and using that data to train our artificial intelligence, we could very accurately see state by state what was the support like for either candidate and just how pervasive was the negative sentiment towards them both.
Let me back you up just a little bit, because one of the things that you're using is social media to determine some of this. How does that work? Are we talking about Facebook? You're going on there and searching to see what people are talking about?
Yeah, so we've got a very sophisticated search algorithm, essentially, which will go very broadly across social media and pick up every single reference to Trump or Hillary or Clinton, and using the crowdsourcing approach, we can then decipher what's relevant to what we're trying to measure. So to put it in context, it was 37 million points of conversation that we had to kind of process for this election. And drilling down into each of the states, we could then see state by state, and it's predominantly Twitter when we get down to the state level conversation. I think 90% of our data at that point was Twitter. We can see exactly what is the pro-Trump, pro-Clinton sentiment, and just how much is the distrust versus dislike kind of framework looking like, that we can look into that.
How do you account, though, for the fact that some of those people on Facebook are not likely to vote, and there are likely voters who are not on Facebook and Twitter?
That's a great question. I think where we're looking at these conversations, bear in mind at a state level, this is now 50, 60,000 unique people per week that we're analyzing. So the numbers are very big, and we only count each person once. So if you have somebody coming into the conversation that's tweeting or going on Facebook profusely, we only count them once, which means in that big sample, it's quite a small factor. What we can't see is whether they're registered voters or not, and that's where social media still has to grow. What we saw, though, in Brexit, as well as in the US, that social media has come of age to a large degree, and if you're able to measure that sentiment accurately, you can get a very real and honest read of how people are feeling, and that, as we now know, translated very well into what actually happened at the end of the day.
Okay, so traditional polling didn't seem to work this time around. I'm wondering if folks have gone to you now to get some advice from you on how we change our polling here in the U.S. in the next election, 4 years from now.
Absolutely. You know, we're a data company. We're not a polling company. I think we've got no political science people in our team. What we understand very deeply is sentiment. And in this election, as we well know, it was an election based more on emotion than on fact at the end of the day. And we're able to measure that emotional component. To me, the polling of the future is where you bring these two worlds together. So we're not trying to upset.
Well, he froze at the end there, but that is fascinating. Jean-Pierre, thank you for joining us. Find out more at BrandsEye.com. Wow, that is interesting.